Hey everyone, it's God Forgive Me, bringing you the new industrial update in Skyreacher. So let's go ahead and check it out. So looking at the new update 11.4, it's of course the industrial update, and it does add 5 new blocks. So let's go ahead and cover these. I'm not going to go ahead and read from here because it's a pretty short list. So instead, let's go check them out at the workbench. Now that we're at our workbench, let's take a look at these new items. First, let's cover the industrial items, and starting us off, we have the industrial furnace. This will turn any ore that's fed into it into iron ingots. It does cost 15 cogs, 1 infernal essence, 50 iron ingots, and 3 molten cores to craft. Then you have the industrial sawmill. This turns any wood that is fed into it into planks. It does itself cost 15 cogs, 3 petrified oak wood, 1 ancient slime core, and 50 iron ingots to craft. They both require coal to be powered, and we'll cover more about how to do that later. Next, let's cover the 2 new chests. The first one we'll cover is the input chest, as this is the one that you'll most likely be using because everything you're building will be feeding into these, as this is the chest that takes all the input. Everything that you produce will go into these chests. The nice thing about these chests is they have 20 open slots for 20 different items, so you could have different farms being fed into just one chest if you choose to, as each individual slot has no item limit. And then we have the other chest, the output chest. This will probably be less commonly used, as it's really just to send items out of the chest. So unless you're going to go ahead and use stuff that's already in your inventory, like if you want to go ahead and power your industrial furnace or sawmill with the coal that you already have, or if you want to go ahead and put like the ores that you have in there and turn them into ingots, so you can go ahead and have this fed into the industrial furnace. That's pretty much the only real purpose that you'll be using these, but who knows, someone might find some more creative good use with it. They both cost 3 cogs and 20 iron ingots to craft. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do you connect these all together? Well, it's the connector block. These are basically pipe that you will use to go ahead and connect all of this industrial together. They do cost 3 void shards to make, so for some that could be pretty expensive. But spending some time with Grimthorn and you'll go ahead and be able to get these in no time.
Grimbusters!
Alright, now that we covered these new items, let's go over the basic concepts and how they work. So first you're going to need some type of source. Typically going to be an underling, but this could also be an output chest if you'd like. So we're going to go ahead and put our underling down. We then need to use a connector to connect it into wherever we're feeding it to. In this case, it's going to be the industrial furnace because this is an ore underling. Now, these connectors can be on any side or even be on top of the anchor or even below it. So as long as it's directly touching the anchor, it will feed into that connector. So we can just go ahead and put 1 here. Let's just go to do 2 for the sake of space. We're going to go ahead and put down our industrial furnace. Now, what's nice about this, it doesn't have to be any specific direction, so really move it however you'd like. We'll go ahead and place it down. It only takes up 1 block space. Again, the industrial furnace will not work without having a fuel source. So again, I could use an output chest, or I could use a coal underling to go ahead and feed into this. So we're going to go ahead and put down, say, a coal underling. We're going to go ahead and connect it. And now we have our underling that's going to go ahead and feed in the resource to go ahead and fuel it. And then, of course, we need to have the output. So we're going to go ahead and use this connector. And we're going to go ahead and have it go into this input chest. Again, no specific direction. It'll feed into any of them. But as you can see, it connects right into it. So now at some point, you will see that the coal will be fed into, oh, there we go, right there. Coal is now fed into the furnace. This underling will start sending some ores into the furnace, and then before you know it, you'll start seeing the furnace pumping out some ingots into this new input chest. I will admit, you will see at first it is a little clunky to start. It can take some time before you start seeing an underling start feeding into the input of either the furnace, the sawmill, or these input chests, but I found that just waiting and being patient, it will start connecting over time, or you can go ahead and leave your island and come back, and then suddenly you'll see that it's working just fine. Now that we've covered the basics, let's take a look at my setups for each of the different underling types. So let's go check these out. Now, covering the flower underlings, it's a really easy setup. You just have a 4x4 on their own little island with a connector on top fitting into an input chest. Being very transparent, these flower underlings are really OP, and you really could do just fine with just having 1 flower underling with 1 connector with 1 input chest right above it. The reason why they're so far away from everything else is that they have a really wide range of where flowers can spawn. They can even be on multiple levels. So it's really just best to kind of keep them out on their own. And that way, with having nothing around them, the flowers only spawn right next to the anchors, and they can immediately go ahead and cut the flowers without having to run around. But again, if you wanted to go ahead and do the most optimal path, maybe because you want a lot of dye, this 4x4 setup is the best. And then you have the wood underlings. This is the same setup that I have already, where I have my 3 grass blocks with my 1 wood underling on top of one side with the other 2 remaining open blocks for trees to spawn. As you can see, the underling doesn't even have to move. The tree spawns, they immediately cut it. Now, the big caveat difference here is that having the connector block on top of the underling, because I found that if you put it on any other side or below it, the underling for whatever reason wants to go climbing instead of doing its job of cutting the trees. So by putting it on top, it doesn't get fixated on these connectors. Another caveat as well, just make sure you have enough distance between them, because these tree underlings can kind of get fixated on each other's trees and try to go towards them. In this case, if they do end up getting fixated, they will fall and they'll just respawn. But until that other tree is broken, they'll kind of get fixated on the opposite tree. That's why it's really important to have this distance. Then we have our ore underlings. It's the same setup as before, where they're stacked right on top of each other. They're off on their own little island, so they're not running around chasing after ores. We have the connector on one side being it into an input chest. Now, for this build, and as well as the wood underling setup before, you can replace the input chest with the industrial furnace or sawmill. In this case, it would be the furnace. Just make sure that you're going to go ahead and power it with coal. And then lastly, we have the crop underling, which is probably why you're really here, as I'm here to show you that the best setup is really the one that we already have. It's the 5x5 grass blocks being 3 tiered with 1 block in between, with the underling just in the dead smack middle on the middle row, so that way it can go ahead and grab any of the crops that are growing from the top row or the bottom row or the one that it's on. Now, the only difference here is that we now have a collector block going through the top hole where we used to go ahead and jump in and collect from our underlings manually. And then I do now have another row on top where instead of it being from that top row where we have that opening, it's now on the bottom where that connector is funneling through. And of course, you can see here I just kind of made them all connected, and they all feed into this one easy to go chest. Now, of course, you can kind of space these out however you want, just as long as you have this 5x5 with 3 tier level being the setup is the correct way of doing it, and just connecting it that way. It's not best to go ahead and have the connectors going through these middle or anything like that, because in this case, we're only sacrificing 1 block when it comes to a growing source for where we can go ahead and put a crop seed. If you do anything like kind of going through the middle here, you're now giving up 2. So this is just the most efficient route. And now here's a quick demonstration of how to build this farm if you haven't seen this before. First, we start by building our first row being a 5x5. Then we build our second row with a 1 block in between. We plow everything but the middle block, as that's where the underling is going to go ahead and sit. Go ahead and put a connector block on top. We build the top row with 1 block being in between. There's a 3 block difference between the 2 top tier and bottom tier. Then you just build the same levels as before, being 1 block in between. Again, the only difference with this one is that the opening is going to be on the bottom instead of the top. And then you just connect this to your chests. And there you go. You can go ahead and build up to 32 underlings, because that's the current maximum number of underlings that you can have currently on your island. And there you have it, the Industrial Update Part 1 for Skyreacher. Now, they are looking for more feedback on what can be added in the future. I know I've already provided mine, but what you should do is you should go ahead and join the Skyreacher Discord, go to their suggestion page, and go ahead and tell them what you think should be added, not just for Industrial, but anything else in the future. I know that they really want to hear your feedback and what you want. But that's all I had for you. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe as that supports the channel. I'm here to support you, so please don't hesitate to comment below and tell me what you'd like me to cover in the future. I look forward to seeing you in the game, but until then, as always, good morning, good day, good night, and God bless. Thanks for watching.